In this video, I'm going to do a V02 bike session, and you guys are going to watch me suffer. But first, James has created a new intro for the channel, so I'm going to roll that, see what you guys think, and then we'll get started. Point of this video, number one, is for your enjoyment. I'm going to go through a lot of pain, so hopefully you enjoy it. Number two, a little bit of education, I guess, and telling you guys why it's important this time of year, or why I believe it's important this time of year to include these types of sessions in your training. I'll probably talk more in depth about that after the session, but right now we talk about the session as a whole. It's only about an hour long, 10-minute warm-up, 6 by 10 seconds max, 20 seconds spin, and then I've got a bit of recovery, 2-minute spin, and then 5 times 1 minute, a sort of zone 5 VO2, 1 minute easy, 5 minutes easy spin. Do that again, but instead of the minute on, it's 30 seconds, so slightly reduced, and then we'll finish it off with, well, another easy spin, and then back into the 6 times 10 second max, 20 second spin. I think the coach was a little bit ambitious on the type of power that I can hold for a sprint, because my target for 10 seconds is 1,300 watts, which I don't think I've ever done that. I think maybe I've done 1,200 and something, but so that probably won't happen, but I'll try and get as close as I possibly can. And a top tip for anyone who is doing sessions like this, shorter sessions, short sharp intervals, definitely don't use erg mode on the smart trainer if you've got one, because it just, I mean, I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but it completely butchers the cadence and makes it far harder than it needs to be. So you're better off actually controlling the cadence yourself and not using erg mode. But that's enough talking for now. We're going to crack on with the session and talk a bit more about the importance of these sessions after I've ticked it off. Target was 1,300. I got 975. I got another one. So session done and done. I absolutely hate those sessions, as you can probably see. I'm not the most powerful guy in the world, so I find them really tricky, and I just don't enjoy them. You need to be, I think, with sessions like that, you need to be in the mental headspace to hurt yourself a lot, and maybe I just wasn't in that position tonight. Anyway, we got it done. So for the 10-second efforts, like I said, target was 1,300, which I think was very ambitious. But I was knocking on the door of 1,000, but I wasn't quite there, which is something to work on, that's for sure. I've only done a few of these sessions so far this block, so you know, I'm not expecting to move mountains with the amount of power that I'm putting out. And then for the minute efforts and the 30-second efforts, I was at sort of 400 watts, which actually felt pretty good, to be honest. It's just anything higher than that right now is not feeling too good, which is stuff to work on, and it's why I want to talk about it in this video, because it's really important to be including stuff like that right now. What I believe is really important to me, including that stuff in your training right now at this specific moment in winter. Now, for those of you that have been looking and watching my recent videos, I've been banging on and talking a lot about zone 2 training and why it's so important. And so there may be some of you thinking, well, Harry, you're slightly contradicting yourself, because you're praising zone 2 training and now you're saying I need to do high intensity training, zone 5 training, VO2 training. You know, those are very opposite ends of the spectrum. You're talking complete rubbish. Well, what I mean by this is not you need to do a lot of zone 5 training or VO2 training or high intensity training. It's the importance is starting to include it in your training, and majority of your training should be base zone 2. So if we look at my training as a whole, I'm doing about 80-90% proper nice and easy zone 2 training, super chilled, and then I'm starting to really include some high intensity stuff. So on the bike, that looks a little bit like zone 5 intensities, the stuff that I've literally just done. On the run, it might look like hill reps, fartlek stuff. In the swim, it's just going to be VO2 efforts, 25s, 50s, not really going over 50s at the minute, to be honest with you. And then these can all progress. Everything else can keep super nice and easy, and you're working on both ends of the spectrum. The reason for that is so that you're building your aerobic capacity, but at the same time, you're working on producing a lot of power and a lot of strength. And then from this is how I program anyway. And for those of you that are self-coached, hopefully you can take some knowledge, some inspiration from this, and it might help you out programming for yourself. Essentially, you're working at both ends of the spectrum. So you got your high intensity VO2 right now, you got your base stuff, and then as you progress closer towards the season, the high intensity stuff will decrease and get closer towards the base level. Now, it will completely depend on what distance you are going to be racing at, whether you're racing super sprint, 70.3, I missed out standard there, and then full Ironman or double Ironman if you're an absolute crazy animal. So it will depend on what level you get to, because if you're going to be racing a shorter distance, you want to be keeping a relatively high amount of intensity in there to keep race sharpness. However, if you're going to be doing 70.3 Ironman, that high intensity stuff will need to come down a little bit, and as you decrease the intensity of those sessions towards the season, your duration of the effort will increase. So for example, right now, I'm only doing 30-second to a minute VO2, real high intensity. As I get closer towards the season, that VO2 is going to come down, or that intensity is going to come down, and I'm going to bring it closer and closer towards, let's say, something like sweet spot intensity. But those intervals will have increased to 20, 30-minute intervals. The reason for this is we work on a real high intensity now and a strength and a power aspect, and then as you progress, you can develop that into more of a sustained ability on the bike or on the run or in the pool. And all the while working on your base aerobic phase and your base aerobic capacity, which I think is super important. I have been banging on about it, but I genuinely think it's so important. So that's why I'm saying, if you're going to include any sessions right now, make sure they are super high intensity and you're working on power rather than anything else. Obviously in the pool you want to be working on technique as well. Don't just throw your arms around willy-nilly, because that won't do you any favors. But focus on high intensity stuff. So on the run, hill reps; on the bike, VO2 efforts; in the swim, like 25, 50 meter efforts. But just do one of those sessions per week. Everything else, keep it nice and chilled. Or if you want to, start to include a little bit of tempo work, a little bit of threshold work, a little bit of that. But for the most part, keep it nice and bassy, keep the sessions high intensity, and then as you progress towards next year, you bring those two closer together and you'll be ready to go. So I hope that gives you a little bit more info on that. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below, and also let me know what you're sort of doing, what you're programming. If you're doing anything slightly different, drop that in the comment section below as well. I find it really interesting to see what other people are doing and what other people find valuable in their training, because like I keep saying, it's all personal. So what works for you may not work for someone else. So this may not work for you. I feel like it will, but it may not. So let me know what works for you in the comment section below. That's the end of this video, guys. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.